Good afternoon. Hi, everybody. It's Friday, and it is November the 11th, and we are here for the Hostos Student Leadership Academy Friday Ambassador Workshop Series. I'm glad that you could join us in person, and for those who may watch this afterwards, thank you for taking some time out to have the experience of the work that we do on a weekly basis. Today, I have the privilege, the honor and privilege to introduce a good friend, somebody who's been coming back and doing incredible work with our group for such a long time now. Miss Jessica Janniere, a New Yorker. She has her own program, her own book, Look Up and Beyond. And she's going to tell you all about these things and what her workshop will be about today. And I think it will have a very deep impact on you, especially on your leadership journey, because there's some things that are easy to tackle and other things that are not. And Jessica knows how to guide us through on our journey as leaders to tackle some of the bigger challenges that we're going to face. So I turn it over to you, Jessica. Thank you for being here, and look forward to it.
All right. Well, thank you. As always, Jason, I appreciate your leadership. Thank you to Hostos for inviting me back year after year. Always excited to meet with this group, and I see many new faces here. And as we get to know each other in the next hour and a half or so, before we begin, I'd like you to just take a moment in the chat and write something that you're grateful for today. Just one thing. What are you grateful for right now in this moment? Just type it in the chat. All right, my kitty, Sashi, is that how you say your name? Sashi? Okay, I see that. That's cute. Jason said this workshop. Leighton, my family. Kimberly said being a CUNY student. Ria said this workshop. Katie said my pets. Jose said for being alive. Okay, amen to that. I'm with you right there, Jose. Sabrina said this workshop. Thank you, Sabrina. Abby said, I'm grateful to wake up this morning. Yes, thank you for life. Awesome. Continue to put your responses in the chat. And as you do, I'm going to go ahead and open up the screen share so we can get started. If you know someone that should be in this session, take a moment and shoot them a text and say, get on this Zoom. You do not want to miss it. Okay, because we're going to dig into some powerful transformational content. And you're going to be thinking like, man, I wish so-and-so was here. I should have sent them a text. Somebody might need a reminder. So go ahead and do that while I set up the screen share. We have an exciting session, and I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. I see those great gratitude expressions coming in the chat. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Awesome. All right. So today we are talking about fear to fulfillment. A leader's path to growth, impact, and legacy. How many of us here want to grow, make an impact, and leave a legacy? You can put an emoji, raise your hand if your camera's on. Just give me a response. Am I talking to the right crew? Awesome. Okay, I see hands raised. Love it. So we're going to jump right in because we don't have a lot of time. And what we're going to talk about today really is going to challenge our perception. And perception is so important because perception is about how we view the world, the lens from which we see, and how we see the world and how we see circumstances and challenges and all these different things will impact how we show up. And so when we have the perception that we're going to be defeated by a particular obstacle or a situation, guess what happens? We take no action because our perception is saying, well, if you take action, you're going to fail. You're not going to make it. But if you know that you can win and you can have victory, what are you going to do? You're going to take action and you're going to go for it, right? So today, you're going to be challenged to go for it, to have victory over something that has become a stifling block and has been a really a robber of dreams for so many people. And we're going to really dig into that. How many of you are ready to go for it? Just type go for it in the chat. Go for it in the chat. Or you can just put the number 1. I'll make it easy for you because I know some of you are on your phone. Just type number 1 in the chat. If you're ready to go for it, put number 1. Love it. I see those ones coming in. Katie said 1-1. She said, I'm going for it twice. What? I love it. Yes. So just put a 1 in the chat if you are ready to go for it. And that could be for whatever you want to go for, right? Anything, your dream, your goal, your vision, something that you want to pursue and accomplish. So let's talk about how important perception really is in that process. Do you know that your brain at a positive state is 31% more productive than your brain at a negative, neutral, or stress state? 31% more. So that means if you're having a bad day and somebody like maybe pissed you off, or like, you know, you heard some bad news, or you're feeling down, you can lose 31% of your productivity. 31%. But if you can shift your focus and your perception to a positive place, you'll be 31% more productive. And here's the clue, and here's a little tip. For those of you that shared your gratitude reflection in the chat, you can take that small little tip and you can use it to trick your mind, not really trick your mind, but to shift your mind to a place of positivity, which will impact your productivity. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, just type number 2 in the chat. Just put a number 2. So gratitude is something that you can use at any point in the day. Whether you're in class, whether you're at home, whether you're on the job, whether you're having a debate and trying to navigate conflict with someone, you can in that moment say, you know what, let me shift my focus to gratitude so that I can be 31% more productive because I've intentionally put myself in a positive place. Awesome. So perspective is powerful. Perspective, I want you to hold on to that while we're going through today's presentation. So here's what you're going to leave with today. You're going to gain a greater level of self-awareness to improve your self-image and your confidence and acceptance. How many of us need a better self-image and confidence and acceptance? I know I do. I'm always working on learning how to love myself better, how to be more confident, and to accept myself and some of my flaws and challenges that I have. I see those hands. Love it. Thank you. You're going to discover very specific and practical strategies to move beyond fear so you can apply them right away and thrive. And then guess what that's going to do? It's going to increase your leadership capacity and effectiveness so you can make a greater impact. And isn't that what legacy about? Legacy is about impacting and positively influencing those in your sphere of influence. So I want to share with you a little bit about myself, just because I think it's really important. A lot of times we see speakers and we hear them talking about all these facts and all of these things. And you know, that's good stuff, that's important. But I want you to really kind of get an idea of how I ended up doing this type of work as a speaker. So I'm the founder of an award-winning personal development organization called Look Up and Beyond. My goal is to help people look up and beyond their past, their trauma, their negative circumstances, maybe even their disbelief, and all of these different things. I'm a nationally recognized adversity expert. I specialize in overcoming adversity because I've been through some stuff. I didn't read about it in a book. I lived the school of hard knocks. I got my master's PhD from the school of hard knocks. So I know what I'm talking about when I share this stuff. Certified international leadership coach, speaker, and trainer with the John Maxwell team. I don't think Jason knows that, but Jason, since my last time visiting with Hostos, I've actually partnered with the John Maxwell team and became a certified international leadership coach. So woohoo, I'm excited because I'm going to be sharing some of those things with y'all today. And I recently actually stepped down from mentoring, the director of mentoring services for girls empowerment, but I was mentoring and I continue to mentor teen girls and work with young people in the community, you know, making sure they have the resources, the support, the love and affection that they need to really thrive. And I'm a mother of 3 incredible young people. I'm a wife of 20 years, just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary. Can I get a whoop whoop for that? That's a miracle, y'all, okay? 2 decades. We putting in the work over here, okay? We put in the work. I'm a hiker, a foodie. Any foodies in the chat? Put a one or a foodie if you're a foodie. If you're a foodie, what's your favorite food? So I love food. I'm about to order some after this session, y'all. It's Friday night, okay? And I'm addicted to helping others thrive beyond adversity. But so you've heard a lot about my professional resume. I want to share with you a little bit about my story and where life has taken me and why I'm so passionate about the work that I do. So I was actually born in Germany. I lived in Germany from the time I was born till I was 6 years old. This is little Jessica living on a farm. And during this time, I was raised by my grandparents. I was not in relationship with my mom, really. She was dealing with her own challenges. She was in a domestic violence situation. She was homeless at the time. So I knew nothing but farm life with my grandparents. When I was 6 years old, my mom had remarried. And during that time, they ended up moving to America. So they had 2 children together, which were my siblings. And then they came and got me and said, hey, we're moving to America. This is the actual bungalow that I lived in Far Rockaway, Queens, here in New York City. And this was in the mid-'80s. So if you know anything about New York City in the mid-'80s, it was during the height of the crack epidemic. And I actually lived in these communities. And if you haven't noticed, I'm white. So I was the only white kid in the neighborhood, in the school. And it was challenging because here I am, an immigrant child, English. I was a ESL student. I was in a classroom by myself, having to learn the English language. So what that did was it put me at risk for bullying. And I started to get bullied and I had all of these different challenges. I went from that happy kid that you saw on the farm to this sad, introverted and soft-spoken and shy and pretty much terrified little girl because of all of these experiences and this culture shock and the trauma that I was now experiencing. Now, during the years that we lived in Queens, my stepfather was an alcoholic. There was a lot of abuse in the home. There was a lot of poverty. My mom, we were raised on welfare. So there was a lot of different things. And by the time I was a teenager, I had a lot of challenges. I had a lot of fears. I was afraid of people. I was afraid of men. I was afraid of so many different things because of the trauma. Again, this is a picture of me with my siblings, my sisters. My brother's not in the picture. And again, we were in a very toxic, very violent, a very poor community. And it really, really brought me to a place where I got involved with the wrong people, got involved with the wrong things. And I was really, really struggling. And I can tell you today that looking back, I'm so grateful I made it out of that environment because I almost didn't. During that time, I was also suicidal and I tried to take my life. And by God's grace, I'm here to talk about it today. During the last decade, I actually was working with suicide prevention programs and working in the community because as a 3-time suicide attempt survivor, I knew how to meet people where they were. And this is what happened where kind of things became a little different for me. So have you ever heard the expression, sometimes pain leads you to your purpose? Have you ever heard that, right? There's pain that we experience and it can lead us to our purpose. Well, my sister here, she was the oldest sibling under me. We were 3 years apart. And because of all of the abuse and everything, she ended up running away from home. And unfortunately, she died due to gang violence. And it was during that time that I had an awakening. And it was a time where I kind of got shaken up and I needed to find some type of purpose in my life. And her passing kind of moved me in that direction. And so today I've been able to author and pen my story and do it in honor of her. And I keep her story alive. I've been able to travel across the country and speak to different people from all walks of life, not just sharing my story, but talking about the strategies and different things that I've been able to utilize to help me move from this painful past to a life of purpose, right? So here, just incredible people, just so grateful. And this is just my family who I just had to show y'all because they're so cute and they are my inspiration. And Here's what I wanted to share about this here before I go on. When we go through things, because everyone here has a story and we all go through different hardships and adversities and things that challenge us. What we don't realize at the time is that those experiences can create obstacles inside of us that we don't even realize are there. And today we're going to talk about one of those obstacles. I have a series called the Move Your Mountain series. And in that series, I talk about the different types of obstacles, the mountains that we have to overcome in order to move forward. And these are the obstacles that are not always easily noticeable. One of them would be murkiness. Sometimes we are functional, but we're very unfulfilled. Have you ever felt like that? Like you're going through the motions? You're just showing up. You know you got to do this. You know you got to do that. But you don't feel that joy and that passion and enthusiasm. That's because sometimes there could be a mountain of murkiness. By the way, I live in Brooklyn, y'all. I'm by a hospital. So if you hear sirens, it's not an emergency in regards to our talk, but we will hear these. So excuse the background noise. The other one is the mountain of self-sabotage. Sometimes when we come through trauma and different things, we don't realize that because we had to survive through certain circumstances, we created faulty thinking patterns and faulty coping strategies because we're in a place of survival. The mountain of unforgiveness. We don't really talk about this a lot, but having a spirit of unforgiveness can really hinder us from being leaders and connecting with people, connecting with ourselves. The mountain of regret. The mountain of regret. Living in past mistakes, past failures, and allowing that to keep us where we are instead of where we want to go. And then the last one, which is what we're going to talk about today, is the mountain of fear. The mountain of fear and how fear can keep us stagnant. But again, when we don't have that awareness, we can't really understand that this is what's happening. Sometimes we are in the picture frame, so we can't see the picture. We need to step outside of the frame, or we need someone to help us to see what we're missing. Does that make sense? So today we're talking about a powerful method that will help us to identify, is fear holding me back? On the screen, you see something that says, applying the law of awareness. This is a law and a principle that we can apply to our lives that brings us to a place where we can see and identify what's happening inside of me. How has my story and my lived experiences and my relationships with people and the things that I've gone through, how has that impacted my ability to be a leader today? Because I have big goals, big dreams. I have a huge vision. I want to change the world. I want to change my community. I want to do good things. But why do I sometimes feel stuck? So here's what the law of awareness is, and you can screenshot this. And I learned this from my incredible mentor, Mr. John Maxwell, world-renowned leadership expert. And it says here, the law of awareness, that I must know myself to grow myself. And the more I know myself, the better I can lead others. And the better I can lead others, the more impact I can make. That's the law of awareness. And we're going to actually travel and apply the law of awareness today. So if you're ready, put a 1 in the chat. Just put a 1 in the chat if you are ready. I see those coming in. Love it. So life is full of obstacles. And as I mentioned, metaphorically, these mountains that try to keep us stuck. So the mountain of fear. Marie Curie said, nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less. So that's where we're going to not just understand fear, but understand ourselves and how we're relating to it, how we're responding to it. So let's talk about the different types of fears, the most common types. I'm going to share with you not all of the types of fears, but the most common types of fears. Fear of change. Number one fear, most people are terrified of change because they don't know what to expect. And remember, I was saying sometimes we get very functional. We're kind of in our flow. Everything is, we know what to expect. Well, the fear of change can kind of throw us off track. Fear of change. Here's another one. Fear of inadequacy. Have you ever felt like you were inadequate? Inadequate, meaning I don't really feel like I can do this. I'm not skilled enough. I can't measure up. I'm afraid if I try, it's going to show that I am inadequate. Fear of embarrassment. I used to have all of these fears, by the way, okay? Fear of embarrassment. Fear of judgment. What are they going to say about me? If I go for my dreams, if I pursue this, if I don't do what others expect me to do, I might be judged. What will they say about me? Fear of people, directly connected to what I just said. Fear of judgment is based on and rooted in fear of people. What happens when I'm afraid of people and their rejection? Fear of failure. Is this resonating with anyone? Sabrina said, I despise change. I feel that. Ria said imposter syndrome. We're going to talk about that. Fear of failure. If you can identify with any of these fears, just put a 1 in the chat. Fear of failure. Can you imagine somebody is afraid of success? I could not believe that not only was I afraid of success, but I was not only afraid of failure, but I was also afraid of success. Imagine that. Isn't that what we work so hard to experience, success? Oh my goodness. Leeton said, I used to be and think all of that. Listen, we're on the same page. Fear of rejection. I alluded to it earlier. Fear of loneliness. How many people do we know that may be in not so good relationships with people who might misuse them, mistreat them, take advantage of them because of fear of loneliness, right? Fear of loneliness is a very, very real fear. And then there's fear of pain and harm. These are the top 10 types of fear. You're welcome to screenshot this and look at those and really begin to ask yourself, are any of these fears present in my life? Are they hindering me from moving forward and becoming who I need to be? So here's a reflection question. I'd like you to take a moment to think about for yourself. What are some of my fears? Some of them could be fears that I didn't even list. I only listed the top 10. These are the ones that are the most common. These are the ones that are most difficult sometimes to recognize or to confront and to overcome. So I'm going to open it up for comments. Anyone that wants to share before we continue, anything resonating with you? Are you having an aha moment? Is something making you feel a little uncomfortable? And that's a good thing because it means you're growing and your awareness is becoming more profound. So, Jose, yes.
Yeah, so the fear of embarrassment is something that really stuck with me because I feel like prior to this year, because I've been working on it now, but prior to this year, I would have been ashamed to do anything. Like literally going up in front of a class to talk, like, you know, make a presentation or something, I'll be fearful because I'd be embarrassed of it or think I'll do bad at it. But I'm working on it now, but that really stuck with me. It's something that I feel like in my life has been present with me for like the majority of my life or mostly all of it.
Wow. Well, listen, much respect to you for number one, sharing it publicly. Number one. Number two, for working at it and for overcoming it. Really, really inspired by you. Thank you. Anyone else? Just feel free to unmute yourself. Sashi said, I'm scared to fail in school so much. Sabrina said, all of them are my fears except loneliness and pain and harm. Feel free to elaborate. Anybody want to unmute and share?
Um, I can definitely relate to what she's saying because I have this wall and I'm scared to let any man in for
Mhm.
love. So I like put up a wall and I don't want to be with anyone. I feel like, oh yeah, I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. Like I have it embedded in my head when I really shouldn't do that.
No, that's honest. Thank you for sharing that. And all that means is that you are moving cautiously because you've been hurt and disappointed. And so it's a real indication that some healing needs to take place. Now, I have been where you are, Sashi, and I can say that from experience, I've learned how to heal myself and open myself to love, but still be very discerning and very cautious and strategic about how I interact with people, especially with the opposite sex. So I hope that you are able to find that balance in your life. And thank you for sharing that because a lot of people do experience that. I see some hands raised. Erica?
Yes, thank you so much. How are you? Thank you so much for your insight and of your words. I am a parent, and I'm afraid that I won't be able to guide my son properly because I have issues with the Department of Education. My son is 10 years old, so but that's my afraid of. So I enrolled myself into school again in order to prepare him, but also to be his inspiration. But I'm still, struggle that I'm afraid that I couldn't, help him, succeed in the life. Thank you.
That's good. That's a very honest and a very real fear. As a parent of 3 children, I can say I felt that, Erica, and one of the greatest ways that we can inspire our children is to work on ourselves, to grow ourselves, to challenge ourselves, and to model for them what we want them to experience. And here's another thing. We also have to remember that it's not just us that can inspire our children. We can open them up and introduce them to other resources and other people and other stories that would confirm and affirm what we are teaching them. So just wanted to put that in there. Ria, yes, you had a comment?
Hi, Jessica. I'm so thankful to be here. I'm learning a lot from this session. I just wanted to say, like, fear is usually the result of trauma. So I'm also like Erica, I'm also in the process of self-discovery. Like I went back to school because I do want to show my daughter. I also have a 10-year-old and I want to show her
Wow.
that, yes, I want to show her that I want to be a good role model for her. And in this path that I'm in right now, I am discovering a lot of aspects about myself that I didn't really know. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is really scary. But at the same time, I am now more aware of my flaws and like, of things that I wasn't aware of before. I guess my question really is that how do you move past the fear and how do you not allow your trauma to define you, but at the same time, embrace those trauma that happened to you in the past? Like how do you embrace them? Because basically that's how I empathize with other people, but how do I not get stuck in that and like move past the fear and become, like pursue the like fulfill the path or the purpose that I am supposed to fulfill? Thank you,
Ooh,
Jessica.
that's a good question. Okay. Well, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna circle back to it because you'll see it'll make sense afterwards. So yeah, that's a great question. I love the way you framed it and worded it. So let's do this here. When we talk about moving fear out of our lives, and I just want you to envision it as this mountain that's an obstacle in your life. And when you move this mountain, guess what it brings? It brings courage. And you know what I've learned about courage? Courage is a muscle. It's nothing more than a muscle that we get to build. Courage is like a muscle. It's something that's developed over time. It is something that is rooted in confidence. So when I feel confident, then guess what? I'm going to show up and I'm going to feel courageous. and I'm going to take risks and take action. So Nelson Mandela said, I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. This is very powerful because what Nelson Mandela was saying is that it's not about whether or not you feel that fear. We are all going to feel fear. And some of our fears are justified and important because they keep us safe. But when we have fear that is maybe magnified or imagined, that's when we can get stuck. And so knowing the difference between the two is where we can find that balance. Here's an acronym that I've learned. That fear stands for false evidence appearing real. If you see the letters of the letter of each word, it spells out fear. Fear is false evidence appearing real. It's an illusion. Oftentimes, some of the fears that we have are things that we've imagined to be. And when we come from a place of trauma, it gets magnified. And we're so sensitive to things because we're looking at the world through a trauma lens. And that is why it's very important that I don't really like to say to embrace our trauma, because some of our traumas are very traumatic. And I can speak for myself as someone who's gone through a lot of trauma. I don't want to embrace my trauma, but what I want to do is make peace with it. I want to make peace with it and recognize that, hey, although I've gone through some trauma, it's not who I am. It doesn't define me. And then I can unpack the trauma and begin to reframe it and use it to extract life lessons. How can I empower myself? And one of those things I can do is to see and recognize, remember, we're applying the law of awareness. And the law of awareness brings me to a place where I can say, hey, I feel the fear, but let me see, where is it coming from? What's triggering the fear? Is it real fear that's justified, or is it false evidence appearing real? Is it an illusion that's been created because of my lived experiences? Am I looking through the wrong lens? Very, very, very important. So let's talk about, how do you gain courage when fear hits? How do you build that courage muscle and move beyond this false evidence appearing real? So we're going to talk about some specific strategies. I just want to make sure. Okay, I was just checking the chat box. So let's get into these practical strategies. You ready to hear what we can do? Just type a 1 in the chat if you're ready, because this is going to be so simplified. And some of you are going to be like, oh my goodness, I'm doing some of this. Oh, I never even thought about that. You know what? I need to apply this. It is so super simple and so practical. And after today's session, you can literally start to use these principles and these strategies immediately. And you can begin to get those courage reps in. Build that courage muscle so you can have that confidence. Number 1 is take action. The challenge with fear is that it freezes us. So often it freezes us. And when we think about it too much, we tend to overthink. And then we think about things that confirm the way we feel. And we're like, well, damn, I shouldn't do it anyway then. I shouldn't do it. The thing about it is, when you feel the fear, you take action immediately. Once you know that, of course, it's safe to do so, and you've recognized that this is something that's going to take you to an outcome where you're going to learn something or you're going to gain something that leads you to success, you want to feel the fear and do it anyway. Feel the fear and do it anyway. I have lived that model the past 20 years of my life, especially the last 10 years of my life, because as Jose was saying earlier, you know, that he showed up in school and had all of these different fears, fear of embarrassment. I used to cut school in high school to avoid giving a presentation in front of the class because my knees would shake. I would turn so red. I would break out in hives. Okay, so I would get teased because of that. My stomach would knot up. I would get so nauseous, I'd have to go into the bathroom. And I was like, this is just too much. I didn't realize at the time that I was struggling and dealing with PTSD symptoms, and I was also dealing with social anxiety. But when I got to college and I took a speech class, it was the first time that I challenged myself to do it afraid and to allow myself to be embarrassed. And I got up in front of the room and I gave my speech and presentation with my knees shaking, my neck red, but I intentionally took action because I knew that I wanted to grow beyond it. So what I'm sharing with you is that was a long time ago. That was back in 2004. 2004, when I was enrolled in Kingsborough Community College, which I'm an alumni from. And I began to take action, even though I was afraid, even if it meant I was going to be embarrassed, even if it meant I would fail. Here's a powerful thought. Fear is not an identity. Hey, just because I feel fear doesn't make me a punk. You know, we're New Yorkers. We all got to walk around and we have to look tough and we got to be hard all the time. And so we don't want to let people know that we have fears, but fear is a natural human emotion. And it's one thing that we share in the human experience. And it's not something that we are. It's not who we are. Fear is an experience, but it's not an identity. Just because I feel fear doesn't mean that I'm a punk or I'm a scaredy cat. Here's another one. So often, we just need to change our perspective. Remember we said in the beginning that having a positive perspective increases our productivity 31%. Well, when we feel the fear, we can change our perspective and say, you know what? I'm glad I'm feeling this emotion because what it's doing is giving me an opportunity to grow. I can build my courage muscle in this moment. Changing our perspective and seeing it as a positive invitation versus a negative moment. Is this making sense? Can I get a 1 in the chat? I just want to make sure y'all are with me. Am I boring anybody here? Okay, I see all the 1s. Good. All right. Love it. Awesome. So change your perspective. Here's another one. Take calculated risk. Sometimes we don't take calculated risk because we don't plan. So often, if we took the time to plan ahead, it would actually decrease and maybe even remove our fears about a particular thing. Here's an example. You may be afraid to go to a job interview because number one, it might be in a new neighborhood. You may fear being embarrassed, not saying the right words at the right time. But if you plan ahead and you say, you know what, I'm going to practice what I'm going to share. I'm going to Google it and I'm going to map out my route for that day. And I'm going to have a backup plan. So in case the trains run or there's traffic or whatever, I'm going to plan ahead. And I'm going to go to this job interview because it's a calculated risk. I may get the job, I may not. And either way, I come out of that experience success. What do I mean by that? Because you went through the process of building your courage muscle and moving despite the fear, planning ahead, taking the extra steps to feel prepared, you developed the skills and you took action that will give you a great outcome, which means you're either going to get the job or you're going to be even more prepared for the next job interview. Does that make sense? So you're already in a place of success because you took that calculated risk. And that was just one example off the top of my head. And there's so many more. But a lot of times we feel fear because we fail to plan, which leads me to my next point. Preparation. Sometimes we're afraid of failing the test because we didn't prepare. We're afraid to be in certain relationships because we didn't prepare. We're afraid to be a parent because we didn't prepare. I didn't prepare to be a parent. But I learned that while I was a parent, I can begin to prepare for some of the experiences I want to experience with my children. And having raised 3 young adults, I became very intentional about preparing myself as a parent. When my kids were in middle school and when they were in elementary school, I began to read books and learn, how do I plan for teenage years? So when the teenage years come, my home wouldn't be like a hellhole with everybody trying to kill each other. And I'm using that as a sarcastic term because sometimes when you have teenagers, it can be a little rough. And so what I did was I planned and prepared to the best of my ability. And again, these strategies of overcoming fear apply in every area of life. So whether you apply it to being a student, being a spouse, a partner in a relationship, in a friendship, career, academic, leadership, how I lead people. Sometimes I don't feel like a leader because I'm not prepared. I haven't prepared myself to learn how to communicate. I'm afraid to be a leader because I haven't prepared myself to handle conflict. I'm afraid of conflict. But if I can prepare myself by learning how to show up when conflict arises, I see it as something that I can grow through versus go through. Here's another way that we can move this mountain of fear, and that is secure emotional support. Again, not all of us are comfortable allowing other people to know that we are afraid of something. Some of us have grown up in homes where we were not allowed to show emotions, or we were not allowed to talk about being afraid of anything. We were told, listen, you keep it moving, you brush past it. And so it can be difficult for us to secure emotional support. But I do believe that in order to be a healthy, emotionally intelligent leader, then we will heal so we can have the courage to secure emotional support. And that can be through a licensed therapist relationship. That can be through a friendship with someone that you trust. That could be with a mentor who you trust and who adds value to your life, who you utilize to navigate life and the complexities of life. I think of Jason, who's just an incredible leader, and he has been a person that students have gone to for years to secure some type of emotional support when they're going through a difficult time. And that's what leaders do. We are that go-to person. It doesn't mean that we become a quote unquote, therapist, no, but just sometimes people just need a word of encouragement. Sometimes people just need to be reminded that, hey, you got this. I believe in you, Jessica. Wendy Am, you've come a long way. Look how far you've come. You can do this. Sabrina, I believe in you. Kimberly, you got this. Leeton, you got this. You did it before, you'll do it again. And so securing that emotional support can sometimes just be looking to someone who can affirm you and remind you of what's already inside of you. So I'm going to stop the screen share moment. Would love to hear what's going on. So Ria, did that answer your question?
Yes, very much.
It did. Okay,
Thank
awesome.
you so much.
What stood out to you? Like what resonated with you about some of those things that I just shared?
All of them. I'm going through a lot of significant changes in my life right now, and I'm just trying to figure out how I can actually, like, I have a lot of I have ADHD, so I have like a lot of these ideas, and they're just like, and if I don't control them, they're just gonna remain ideas. So I have to take action in order to move past my fear. I know that that's one way for me to move past my fear, to put it into action, like my ideas into action. I'm just stuck right now. But I know like I have ideas, but I know like I just need to push myself a little further and just to like move past the fear, I guess. But
Yeah,
I
no,
know
that's
I can do
good.
it. Thank
So
you.
you sound like you have a lot of ideas, which means you're probably a creative person and you have a very big vision and a lot of goals. And one of the things that I found very helpful is having something called a lump and dump session. So I don't know, do you have journals?
I sometimes journal.
Okay, so here's what I recommend. I actually bought this book. I don't have it in front of me, but it's a large size book. It's kind of like an art book that artists use to like sketch images and photos and things. And what I do is it's the one with the blank pages. So I bought that. And what I do is when I feel like my brain is filled with so many ideas, I take this clean paper in this book and I just write out all of my ideas and I do a brain dump to get it out of my head and onto paper. And then what I do is I give myself some time to go back to it and see, well, out of these ideas, which ones are really the good ideas that I kind of want to be curious with and play around with and I want to explore. And those are the ideas that will challenge you to move beyond the fear. But having a lump and dump session.
I'll definitely try that. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
no, let me know how that goes. Shoot me an
Absolutely.
email. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it works really well, at least for me. And I've trained on it in my coaching program. So people have done that and they found it to be very helpful. But a lot of times it's just too much clutter going on in our head.
Yeah.
It's too much. It's too much. So we got to get it down on paper. Anyone else? Anything resonating? I know y'all not going to have me calling your name, right? We're not doing this, right? I don't want to put anybody on the spot. But I would love to hear from you, like what's resonating with you. And you can make it general. It doesn't have to be, really personal if you don't want to share anything personal. But just as a leader and where you are and the influence that you have, how is this information speaking to you right now?
I like that you actually read books about for teenage years. I never did that. I had my daughter at 16 and I didn't know what was coming my way. But the teenage years is, I should have read some books, honestly. It should have helped. It would have helped. But now I'm probably going to look into something where dealing with a teen becoming an adult because he is something else.
Yeah, no, because nobody teaches us this in school. You know what I mean? Like I didn't come out of school. Nobody taught me like reading these books. I can truly say a lot of like my motivation behind it came from my own pain. So as a child abuse survivor, I really was very intentional about breaking cycles in my family. So that motivated me to look for information. But nobody teaches us this stuff. So it's not like we automatically think like, oh, you know what? I should start reading about this now for the next 10 years. So it's not something to be embarrassed or ashamed about, because nobody teaches us about this stuff.
It's true. And then it's like, I don't want to repeat the cycle of how my mother acts and then repeat it with my daughter. And then it's just like a never ending circle of the same way we all treat each other and how we talk to each other.
Yeah, that's so true. So real. And the cycles can change. And sometimes it takes a lot more, to disrupt those cycles. And the truth is, remember, we're talking about applying the law of awareness. Oftentimes, in order for us to be the disruptor of these cycles in our families, we have to overcome our own fears and we have to have our own healing process. And the way that we do that is by applying the law of awareness. Going back to that point where if I know myself, then I can grow myself. If I can grow myself, then I can model to other people what's possible. So Sabrina, can you unmute yourself so you can share what you're putting in the chat?
Hi.
Hey there.
I said the emotional support resonated with me. That one the most. Because when I'm feeling like down and out and just feel like giving up, like my grandmother and my closest friends, they're always there for me and tell me like, don't give up, you got this. Just take a moment, take a day, clear your head, and then just go on and push forward. And it always works. So having them around me all the time with their words of affirmation just works so well for
I
me.
love that. No, thank you for sharing that. I love you said the words of affirmation. I want to take a moment just to talk about words of affirmation. There is a saying that life and death is in the power of the tongue. Some of you may have heard that. And life and death is in the power of the tongue. And what that simply means is that our words and what we speak with our tongue can bring life or death to situations, to people, to ourselves, to our belief level. And so when we are intentional about creating affirmations and speaking life, it can shift us to a place of positive emotion, and it can empower us to move forward. And it can empower us to see things, and including ourselves, very different. So how we used gratitude earlier to create a positive shift, we can do the same thing with what Sabrina alluded to, which is the affirmations. Sometimes as leaders, we have to affirm the people that are coming to us. We have to affirm them. They're looking for that affirmation. But here's what I know. You can't pour into someone else's cup if your cup is empty. So if you have not been affirmed or your cup is empty, what are you going to give to other people? So affirming yourself is a powerful way to go and build yourself up so that you're operating from a full cup. Here's a great way to do that. So think about the words I am. The words I am. If we went around the room and I said to everyone, fill in the blank, I am. Ria, what would you say? I am blank. What's your blank? Ria's like, oh man, you picking on me again?
I'm empowered. I am empowered.
I'm what?
Empowered.
Okay. Awesome. I love that. Brian, what would you say? I am. What's your I am?
I am a student leader.
Okay, I am a student leader. Bam, you can affirm yourself in that way. Kimberly, what's your I am?
I am in recovery.
Ooh, love that. I am in recovery. She's like, I'm in recovery. Katie. I am. Leighton.
I am strengthened.
I am strengthened. Come on now, that's good. Erica. Sashi, what's your I am?
I am positive.
Yes, love it. Elizabeth. I won't get to everyone, by the way. I'm just kind of calling on some folks. Wendy M said, I am lucky. Okay, Wendy M, like that. So as you can see, just having that intention of affirming yourself is a great way. Francine said, I am strong. Love it. Francine, are you able to unmute yourself?
Hey, Jessica, one hour to work, and I'm an ED in emergency, so I can't be on the phone. I'm sorry.
Gotcha. No, that's fine.
I'm writing down. I'm
well,
sorry.
thank you for speaking on and
but
being with us.
I don't want to miss it. That's why.
No, that's fine. I won't call on you again. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you so much.
I love it. Erica, I see it. I'm hopeful. Jessica, I'm positive. I'm strong. So here's the thing again. These are very simple, very practical, but very powerful strategies that you can use to build up your resilience, to build up your courage muscle, so that when that fear arises, you can take action and you'll feel more prepared and your confidence will increase. Very, very simple. I do it all the time. I have affirmations all around. Sometimes when I go into a room, like if I'm getting ready to do a keynote or I'm getting ready to speak, like I had a keynote this year and there were like 600 people in the room, all professionals. And I was kind of freaking out. I'm like, I'm not an amateur to this. I know what I'm doing. So I had to just remind myself by using the power of affirmation. And I said, you know, I am clear, I am focused, I am purposeful, I am driven, I am impactful. So you take words that are inspiring to you and that energize you and that make you feel strong and resilient, and you make them personal to you. I'm learning, I am forgiving, I am confident. All of these different things. So let's continue with the screen share. Thank you all for sharing what you've shared. So we talked about securing emotional support. And here's another one. You know, I'm not a pastor or a preacher or anything like that, but I am a person of faith. I see myself as a woman of God. And I believe that everyone has faith in something, regardless of your religious beliefs and your background. We all have faith in something. But for those of you who understand the importance of spiritual faith, you can pray, you can tap into your spiritual reservoir, and you can talk to your creator. You can use the power of prayer, and you can affirm your prayers as well over yourself, over your life, and over the people that you work with. Sabrina said, download the I Am app for those who need daily affirmation. Love it. So the power of prayer. So here's what I'd like you to think about. We're going to do some reflections because, again, just learning and hearing about this is not enough. We want to make it real and practical and personal. And so I'd like you to think about this question. How have I allowed my fears to keep me stuck? And what area or areas of my life is hurting because of this? Think about an area of your life where fear has become this mountain that you feel you just are not able to climb. And if you have a pen and paper, I would encourage you to screenshot these reflection questions and then take some time to journal your thoughts and your ideas and your impressions, and continue to explore this even beyond this session. If you are in therapy and you're seeing a licensed therapist, I encourage you to maybe take these questions into therapy and use it in one of your sessions to explore a little bit deeper, especially if you've experienced some trauma. So I'm leaving it on the screen for a moment, and I'd like you to take about a minute or so and think about your response to these questions. Question number 2, how have I allowed my fears to keep me stuck? And what areas of my life is hurting because of this? I'm going to open up the screen share. Stop the screen share. And then I'm going to open up the floor for sharing what's resonating with you. And feel free to share what you're comfortable with. And you can generalize it. When I tell you, I used to be scared of everything and everyone. I used to be so scared of everything and everyone. You wouldn't believe it. And that's why I take time to share my story, because it took a transformation and it took a lot of me healing and growing and really working on myself to be who I am today. You know, I wasn't this person 10, 15, 20 years ago, even 5 years ago. So I want to model what's possible when we don't allow fear to stop us. Sashi, you wanted to share something?
Yes. I was scared to go back to school because I knew that I needed to put my all for what I wanted to go for. And doing that, I would have to quit it. I ended up not working anymore. And I had to go on their welfare, and that's kind of embarrassing and annoying sometimes. And then, you know, going to school and knowing that I'm gonna be broke, you know, having to have less money, knowing that I got to be more on a budget. But then I'm thinking to myself, you know, like, it's for a future, you know, I'm gonna finish school and then I'm gonna make lots of money.
No, thank you for sharing that. What you did was you realized that you had to make some short-term sacrifices to pursue a long-term goal and vision that you have. And that takes courage. It takes courage just sharing what you shared. So much respect to you just for that.
Thank you, Jessica.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's very inspiring, actually. And again, oh, I see some chats coming in. Abby said, I was scared of leaving my kids and coming to the US. Are you able to unmute yourself and share, Abby?
Hi. Hi,
Hi
everyone.
there.
Yes, I was scared of coming to the US and leaving my kids because I felt so stuck in my marriage. I just wanted to do something for myself so I could feel confident and, independent. So taking that first step to come in here was really, really hard. I mean, some days it's still hard, getting up every day and having to go to school and fight up. It's hard sometimes.
That's powerful. What did you learn about yourself in the process?
I learned that I'm okay by myself and I don't need to have somebody there with me all the time.
Okay. And I'm sure you probably realized that you are capable of much more than you thought initially.
Yep, I did.
Would you say that you're more confident now?
Yes, somewhat. Yes, I said somewhat. I'm not fully there, but yes.
Okay.
I grew a lot from then till now.
Absolutely. You would have to, because that's a big step. That's a big step. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
Let's see, I'm reading some comments. I just won't free myself sometimes, fear of death. Leighton, do you mind unmuting and just talking on that a little bit?
I just feel the more it occurs, the more it takes somebody away from me due to the pandemic. And before that, little things would happen also, make me feel less of a friend to others because they're leaving my side.
No, thank you for sharing that. So you've experienced some heartache and some pain.
Correct.
Yes, that would be totally understandable as to why you would have some of those fears. Would you say that you are open to moving beyond those fears now?
Yes, I do feel myself more open.
Good. Okay. Awesome. Love it. Anyone else? I'm going to open up the screen share.
Me, I will try to share a little bit my fear.
Who's that?
Wendy.
Oh, hey, okay, there you go. Yeah, I was starting the screen share, so I didn't see who was on. So yes, please, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Okay. Mine is a little bit, I would say it's a little bit complicated. Like, I'm scared to fail. I'm scared to be able to reach what my goal, like what I want to be, what I want to do. It's like, I feel like I used to tell my goal to everybody. It's like I speak too much to everybody what I want to be, what I want to do. And now I feel like, oh, it's so hard for me to reach that goal. And like, I cannot go back because like, I will be like, people will see me like, oh, she's just talking too much, but she's not able to do what she wants to do. And to go further too is like, it's getting hard for me. You understand what I mean? It's getting hard for me, yeah, like school, work, family issues, and the fact that I'm living by myself in the United States, and like everything is getting overwhelmed on me. So this is my biggest fear. The things that scare me a lot right now
is fear of failure. Are you comfortable sharing what your goal is?
I tell you, the goal is like, it's like the biggest goal. Like, before to come here, I studied law in Africa, and when I come here, I wasn't able to go to law school because it was expensive. So I decided to go back to start over like a freshman. And I study right now. I'm studying community health, and my biggest goal is like to do public health and to go like to work on the national union, like in the health work. You know what I mean?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's
So do you still want to go? Do you still want to go to law school?
I do want, but now I feel like I'm not gonna make it because it's gonna be too hard for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that's fair. That's fair. And sometimes when we first start, we feel so enthusiastic about our goal until we realize in the process, it's much more difficult than what we thought. So what you're saying, Wendy, is actually very relatable. When you talk about the fear of failure, that's a very, very real fear. What frightens you about failing? What about failure makes you uncomfortable?
I will be like still dealing with the same stuff that I have to do, and I don't like it. Like I'm not gonna be able to have the job that I want. I will stay still in the same situation that's where I am right now, and like that's the kind of thing, you see.
Mm-hmm. So thank you for sharing that. One of the things that I think about, Wendy, as you're speaking is sometimes the journey to get to where we want to go is just rerouted. So just because your dream and your goals are delayed, it doesn't mean that they're denied. So it is still very much possible. It just means that you may have to take a longer or a different route that you didn't expect. So some of the things that I would encourage you to do is, number one, ask yourself, what do you really want? What do I really want? Do I want this dream because I told everybody that I was going to do this? And now they're expecting me to do it. And if I don't do it, they're going to look at me like, oh, you didn't follow through. Remember, we talked about the fear of judgment and the fear of people. A lot of times we hold on to things because of other people's expectations of us. But if it's a dream and that a goal that's authentic and genuine to you and what's burning in your soul and in your spirit, then I believe it is very possible. It is very possible. One of the things that I would add to that is, who can you find that's doing that work that you can talk to and ask them to mentor you? Or even if they don't want to mentor you, would they sit down with you and let you interview them so you can get some information about what is it like to work in public health? What is it like to, whatever area and whatever career you have an interest in, there is somebody who took that journey and accomplished that. And the key is, who are they? How can I find them? How can I connect with them? Sometimes the only reason we don't have certain things is because we're not looking for them. We're not looking for them, but the answers are all around us. Sometimes the answers are in us. We just need to be in the right environment to have it pulled out. And that's why applying that law of awareness is so, so important. Does that make sense, Wendy?